Welcome everybody to Ed Dale Live. Get all your questions answered. Really big show today. Very important one. I want to give you an insight into a style of question that I get a lot of, and it's something that I've considered so much. Particularly, gosh, depending on what part of the world you've been in, it hasn't exactly been the greatest few days, and it strikes me that it's so and it's been funny because with all the various tragedies that have happened, there's also been some amazing things with the Pokemon, yes, believe it or not, Pokemon Go, and that bringing strangers together in just walking out and about, and you're seeing so many people all playing this game that's getting people out and being active. So what's this all got to do with marketing? Well, as it turns out, it's got an enormous amount to do with it. And I think there's some really fantastic lessons to be learnt. And that's what we're going to do today. So first part is I want to read you a letter, and it will take a couple of minutes because it's a long letter, but it's absolutely indicative. I would get this style of email every couple of days. It's the reason that we started the challenge. And just to remind you all, the challenge is available right now. It is live, it is up, the whole thing's there, ready to do at your own pace. So you can just go to challenge.co and sign in, and it's absolutely free. And the reason that we started the challenge was because of the letter that I'm about to read you out. It's the style of letter, and I've been getting, for as long as I've been teaching online, I've been getting this style of letter. But I want you to stick around, because after I finish reading this letter, I'm going to answer Veronica, and I'm also, though, going to expose you to something that I haven't shown before. You see, no, don't worry. Please stay. I wouldn't do that. Not without payment. But what I want to talk about is something that I've been working on for at least a couple of years now. And you've seen, I think there's layers to answering this type of question as well. And I want to take you through that as well. So I think it's a really salutary lesson. And then we're going to talk about Pokemon Go and what an incredible marketing lesson that is. And there's a huge opportunity there. And just in terms of understanding. And second, the third one is answer some great questions that we've got this week as well. So action-packed. All right. So let's start off with this letter that I received from Veronica. I sort of, ironically, in a sense, maybe very aptly, on 4th of July. So here we go. Let me read this to you. From Veronica. Happy 4th of July. I want to know specifically if there is a model for creating an eye-catching, trendy, inspirational blog site created by me without formal training and without me having to have a credit card, not investing a single dime. Okay, so that is a very common question, and typically I say go check out the challenge. Okay, so that's it. Now let's dig in a little further. I am a 37-year-old female in the US of A and living in an isolated hell. After the reject button was pushed following my high conflict divorce, I'm staying with my mother. Unbeknownst to her, also another divorce reject. Have no income, and when she moves next month to another town, I will be homeless again. I have too much experience with just type out your bank card number here and magically all the hidden secret information to become successful will be revealed to you, making you famous and wealthy. I am done trying to pay or pretending to pay for a made specially for you masterpiece. So again, not dreadful situation, and sadly, unfortunately, not unusual for people who come to the challenge. I am willing, however, to do something in exchange for the desired help I am after. In becoming a great blogger, generating sizable. Sorry, my screen's refreshed and it's just. Generating sizable human interest in my stories, genuine emotion invoking, reader appreciation content, educational, unconventional communication wording through feelings of laughter, tears, anger, and compassion, inspiration, jealousy, empathy, and controversy. I want to write, but I need a job, as my dad encourages, a practical and sensible minimum wage, hourly paying job. Like the rest of people who want to receive cash, trading a paper check. Truth is, I actually should play like normal and get back into the swing of things, begin the rat race again, but I don't want to. So again, a common, unfortunately, a common refrain. And that, is, they want to say, I'm not, I'm not scared of the bills I can't pay or the gas I can't afford. Now, she's saying she's not scared of it, but I'm tipping she's very scared of it. No longer own a car, overdue rent. Well, she doesn't have to worry about the rent because she points out she doesn't have a home. Or food, clothes, gifts for my children, as I no longer have any children to care for, no school tuition, cell phone bills, shopping sprees, no husband or boyfriend to impress, and no vacations to take because I am alone. What do I have to lose now for yet again attempting to believe I deserve success? Question mark. Don't I? Right along with everyone else who's become successful? Is there really still an IQ intelligence standard keeping the masses dumbed down by way of charging people for success strategies, which aren't owned by anyone in particular and that have been collectively handed down without financial cost generation to generation since the beginning of time? I really want to write. I want to earn a vast living, pay taxes, take vacations with my children badly. I also don't want to be duped any longer into paying money in exchange for money. And she goes on to say, the only exception is when, once you have money, then it makes sense to make money. And that is a common refrain. It's one of the great ironies in life, of course, is when you need money most desperately, it's the hardest to come by. And when you've got a lot of money, it tends to be a hell of a lot easier to come by. It's one of the tragedies of life, if you will. So that I completely get that. So she goes on to ask if there's, what there is to do. I want to say I have to, and she's obviously got kids and doesn't have access to them. I have to show my boys, sir, that even though I am bipolar, have failed and imperfect, I too deserve success, am credible and worthy of respect from others. Thank you. God bless you and your loved ones. So that is a sadly typical email that we get from people starting the challenge or have heard about the challenge. And what I want to explain, and speaking to you individually, Veronica, but actually, and thank you so much for bravely writing in and allowing me to share that. What I want to explain to you is that there's a set of pre-existing conditions that until you solve them, you are not going to get ahead. Now, that's not the type of advice you want to hear, right? You want to hear me say things like, oh, look, it's going to be sweet, everything's going to be fine, just do the challenge and everything will be cool. Well, it's not going to be cool, right? Everything is not going to be all right. Having said that, there is a way forward. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And this is, I call it the tale of two pyramids. So let's go to the iPad here, and I want to sort of show you some stuff as we go along here. So let's bring that up there. Go to dear old paper. So the two pyramids that we have here, and one here, let's blow this baby up. This is a pyramid that you may well remember. In fact, there's very little psychology taught in schools, but one piece of psychology that is taught a lot, with good reason, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the reason he used a pyramid was because, despite even if you have even if you are of the the pyramids were built by aliens, you can't put the top part of the pyramid by itself without having each layer below. So it's only when you have the bottom layer sorted out can you then build the second layer and the third layer and the fourth layer and the fifth layer. And so, the 5 layers, I'm not going to go into Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot, except for pointing out in particular the bottom 2 layers. Because here's the deal. Now, in terms of let's look at the top for a second. Self-actualization, morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, acceptance of fact, and esteem, which comes with self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, respect by others. Does it make sense that most of your business building activities would probably go into those 2 areas? And I'm talking about business building, creating something that is for you, something that you're designing, that you're building for yourself. Because your job, your job, as we talked about before, that is, where you look at your safety and you look at your psychological needs. And that is often the case. Now, here's the deal. And I know this, I'm going to get negative before we get positive. And here's the thing. Right? If you haven't got breathing, food, water, sleep, excretion, homeostasis, breathing, there's sex, and safety, security of body, employment, resources, family, health, property, if you haven't got those 2 foundation layers of your life sorted out, then the challenge isn't going to work. The no program that you're going to buy is going to work. Nothing I can provide you or teach you is going to work. Now, like I said, okay, don't freak. There is an answer, and this is where the second pyramid comes in. But it's crucial, and I want Veronica to know, and I want everybody to know that if you come to the challenge, if you come to any course content, if you don't know where you're going to live next month, if you don't know where you're going to pay the rent next month, if you don't know where you're going to eat, if those base level of things and stress, they are the things that need to be dealt with first. Okay, you need to deal with that first. The challenge isn't going to help you. Okay, until those things are sorted out first. But here's the good news. Okay, here is the good news. And let me just bring myself back up here for a second before we get onto the second pyramid. You need to understand, okay, that there are 2 types of JOB. Dealing with things like, where you're going to stay, overdue loans. There are solutions to this. Medical issues, right? There are community-based solutions that are available to you mostly in most Western countries. There are organisations that can help. There are people, there are community, like I know in the United States, in Britain and here, there are not sharks that can help you with your financial issues. Don't get sucked into that. Your community organisations, often your local councils or cities, will have people that can help you sort out and negotiate loans, negotiate all of these things. Because typically what happens, and trust me, I know, is that you end up not answering the phone. You end up not talking to people. You end up withdrawing into your shell. And let me tell you, it's the worst possible thing you can do. It's the absolute incorrect and wrong strategy. You actually need to open up negotiation and you need to talk. Now, often that's not something that you can do by yourself. And there are community organizations. Search for them in Google. Look, and as I say, make sure that they're governmental, state-based organizations, approved organizations. There are a lot of people who will promise you to solve your financial problems, and they're just making themselves wealthy. You don't want that type of organization. But you need to reach out and get help. So you need to get help medically. You need to get help financially. And there are organizations that are out there will help. You might have to travel a little bit. You might have to do a little bit of research. But if you do that, here's the thing, and this is where we're going to get to the second part, you can start to build up. The other thing that I want to point out to you is paid to train. It's something I talk about an enormous amount. There are a number of jobs that you can get in this world, and yes, you can get a job, a minimum wage job, as Veronica pointed out, but that's not really helping you get where you want to go. And this is where paid to train comes in, okay? Because there are plenty of jobs in online marketing, in editing, in writing articles for people. Not the biggest paying jobs in the world. You're not going to get your boats and your lifestyle. And what did Veronica say? I want to have a vibrant life. I want to have all of these things. You want to take your kids on holidays. It's in the future. Okay, we've got to focus on the now. And it's crucial that you start earning income so that you can get things sorted out. And this is where pay to train is a fantastic thing. I tell you, one of the most brilliant side effects of Uber, for example, and I know there are a lot of challenge students who are using their car and driving Uber, for example. And I think this is brilliant because, hey, as I say, you're not getting super wealthy, but it's a start. And what are they doing? They're listening to podcasts. And by the way, hello everybody who's listening to this on podcast. We're now, Eddale Live is now going out via podcast. So if you're driving an Uber right now and you're listening to me, bless you twice. There are ways you can Fiverr. You can start taking gigs on Fiverr. Start doing placements, creating Instagram photos using an app. There are so many ways that you can earn money, but you are being paid to train. You're getting in the area that you want to be in. So Veronica, you wanted to create your own blog. Now the good news is that you can start that for free right now. You can go to a public library. You don't need a computer. Every public library in the Western Hemisphere has free internet access, and that's all you need to start with a free blog. Any number of services. You can start with a Tumblr, and you can start blogging and getting into that habit. However, you are not going to be able to get into that habit unless you have that base level of the pyramid sorted out. And this is where the second pyramid comes into it. So let's go back to my iPad for a second. So when you look at starting a business, right? If this is an entrepreneurial pyramid here, where are we? Let's just type that in there. There are 3 layers to the business pyramid, if you will. At the bottom, there's you. Okay. So there is what you're doing. That is crucial. The base period of that, and really, what is actually implied with you is getting all of this stuff correct. All right, so getting all your basics there, but it's actually more, right? If you just want to be employed, then you feel free. Just worry about these 2 parts of the pyramid. That is totally cool, right? If that's what you want to do, and you can work your way up as a sort of a wage earner. We're entrepreneurs, okay? So the entrepreneurial base of the pyramid is you have to start building up the rituals of entrepreneurship in here. So it means that we have to make sure that we at least know where our next dollar is coming through. Because this burn the ships stuff, look, it's not crap in the sense that I'm sure all of you can give me examples of where somebody was down on their luck and they turned it around and within 30 days they were making money again, blah, 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 blah. That's awesome. That's great. Go buy their stuff. I teach for the 99%, not the 1%. Okay, and the 1%, the 99% is that we have to work at this. And there are rituals here involved with this. So you have to get you right. You have to start building up your energy and momentum. You have to be able to manage your energy. You have to be able to manage your willpower. These are all things, that are in this base of the pyramid. Okay? And as an entrepreneur, right, there are things that you can do. Okay, and I'll come back to that in a sec. The second part of this is the how you act and learning how you act. Okay, so it's fine as you start to get your act together and you get managing your willpower and your energy, which you need to do if you're going to build your own thing as an entrepreneur. You've got yourself stabilized. You've managed these first two layers of your pyramid. You then need to understand how to act. And, for me, these are things like, Kanban for entrepreneurs, for example, is an example of me teaching things like here. Achieve a formula is another example of these things. But like I said, if we haven't got this base sorted out down here, if we haven't got this base done, guess what? Kanban is not going to work for you. Achieve is not going to work for you. None of my courses are going to work for you. By the way, I'm not the best person, I've got to say. I'm not the best person to be learning how to build this up. But I do know I have some recommendations for people who are really good, the people I listen to for doing that. And then finally, the top of the pyramid here, the entrepreneurial pyramid, is your tactics. Okay, it's the things that you do. So, for example, up here at the top is things like the challenge and courses. I suppose Achiever is also in this section as well. Any course that that shows you how to do something is in this top end of the pyramid, right? It's the tactics part of the pyramid. And do you notice the area of each of these? In terms of the time spent on each of them, that is about the correct ratio as well. Because working on you is so important, then understanding how you act. Another great way of putting this is it's sort of think about your smartphone. The base level here, right, is your operating system, right? So it's like your iOS or your Android. Then your how to act are your programs. Okay, all the programs on your phone. But just having the programs on your phone is not enough, right? It's what you produce with those programs gives you your enjoyment and your utility in a mobile phone. Same type of thing. You need these layers. And I've been consumed, having done the challenge now, it's coming up very, very shortly to 11 years. In fact, it is 11 years. Yeah, July. Duh. That was our first challenge. So it's 11 years. 11. In 11 years, I'm obsessed because I just want more people to be successful at the challenge. I want them to get the challenge right. And what it's been fascinating to look at, and particularly over the last couple of years, is understanding that you need the operating system. Because if you don't have the operating system, well, you can't do anything, right? There's no programs to add anything. Once you've got your operating system, you need your programs. And then, of course, you need to do what do you do with those programs, like your tactics. And that is that part. So, the next thing I hear you asking, hey, Ed, well, what am I going to do here? And there is some good news. And this is the final, let's bring all of this together. Okay, so let's create another little page here. Where's my... sorry about that, off mic. Um, okay, done there. Thank you. New page, please. There we are. Okay, so I want to show you something which is really, really cool. Okay, because Ed, okay, here's the thing I'm saying to you. You need, if you are under extreme financial stress, if you're under extreme medical stress, if you're under extreme emotional stress, you need to get that sorted out. And I beg you to seek help. There are even, and I know, and this is super exciting, I think, for everybody, is that early on when you do this, right, if you just start getting your foundation right, then you can start building a little pyramid. So you can start to do, so it may be one thing, okay? It may be one little thing, and I'm going to give examples in a second, okay? But here's the deal, and this is particularly when I've been recovering from, various, metaphorical road accidents that I've either caused myself, oops, and of course I didn't switch. So here's the screen. Um, you know, just one little working on yourself ritual. It might be meditation for 20 minutes a day. It might be going to bed early, an hour earlier than you would, getting some more sleep so you have more energy. They're foundational. They're operating system level. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about you, right? These are those fundamental operational level things. Guess what? When you do that, then you can start working on something small here. You can start working on maybe Kanban. Okay, just starting to do, or just thinking to yourself, no, forget even Kanban. No. We can do, we can just say to ourselves, you know what? We're going to just block out, wrong color. 30 minutes. We're going to do 30 minutes a day working on our tactic, which would be the challenge. Totally free. But you need to commit to some sort of ritual here, which is working on building your operating system. Okay, why? Because guess what happens is you grow. Okay, you start to grow. You start to expand. It's super exciting. So we start to get to the point where, all of a sudden our pyramid starts getting better. And so we can add more rituals. We can get more organized. We can start doing Kanban. We can start doing, we do meditation. We walk for 30 minutes every day. We start to think about our energy levels a little bit more. And by thinking about, by getting, say, a walk, and our, we get a walk and we get our, so we do a walk and say we do 30 minutes to bed earlier. That expands our base of the pyramid, which allows us to do more organization, install more programs, which allows us to do more tactics. And then as we go forward, guess what? We continue to build up the pyramid. Right, we can handle more. All of a sudden we can handle more stuff, okay? We can get, we get more rituals in here. We expand. And this is what happens. Our pyramid grows and grows until it gets to be where we want to be. Okay, here. And that is what's crucial. But do you see how it works? You don't have to get you completely. You're never going to get you right. I'm still a mess. Right? It's just, this is something. I'll just come back to me for a second. This is what you need to understand, okay? And I don't care who it is. Let's just talk about me, because I can talk about me. I'm a mess, right? It's just, look, I barely operate in life. It's true, right? It's just, it takes every level, and thank God for Kanban and just being able to, I just do the minimum amount I need to get done. And slowly over the years, my pyramid has gotten bigger. Okay? And that is crucial. right? That has made a huge, huge part of where I've got to. But I've got to tell you, I have bad days, I have bad weeks, stuff happens, right? Even and I've got the pleasure of knowing, some of the most perceived successful people on the planet, and they've all got stuff to deal with. We all have. And so the trick is to start small. And this is the thing, because unfortunately so many people are being sold. Solve your problems. Buy this course and this will solve your problems because here's what it did for me. And it's true, that's what it did for them. But here's the deal, what you don't see is the year or two they spent building up to that. And if you put into the challenge, just the challenge, and you put it working into your rituals for a year, right? Just a year, and get to the point where you're earning $30,000 off your lot, nothing special, right? That makes a huge difference. Your life is forever changed. Go back here. One of my favorite, and this is why it's so important. When you look at the pyramid here, it's that classic thing. If you don't make any changes, right, that's your path, right? That's where it's going to be. But the tiniest page, literally going to bed 30 minutes earlier, because most people who have severe stress have severe sleep issues. And of course, that means less energy, which means your foundation, your U is not right, which means you can't install any programs, you can't do anything. Right? So just by committing to that ritual, by definition, a year down the track, you are going to be in a really different spot. It's just the way it is, right? And if you add in these rituals. So, what I mentioned, during the course of the next, here's the thing, hang on, back to me. Over the course of the next week or so, I'm going to be shooting out email because like I said, I'm a mess, right? I'm pretty good at the two top areas of the pyramid in teaching you. That's what I do. But I'm not when it comes to the motivation and energy management. I'm struggling along with the rest of you. I truly am. The person that I think is actually brilliant at this stuff, and indeed wrote the book on it, is a guy called Brendan Burchard. And what I've asked to do over the course of the next week or so, I'm going to be sending you guys out a series of exercises. Okay, and I hope Veronica does these, and I hope you all do these, because they are exercises designed by Brendan, who is the best in the business at doing this, right? It's the best in the business at doing this. And he designed up a set of exercises, completely free, by the way. You get an email address, and yes, I'm sure Brendan will offer you a course or something like that. And it is indeed, like his High Performance Academy is magnificent. If you want to work on that U layer, because the bigger you can make that U foundation, the bigger your pyramid can be, the more successful you can be as a business, right? And it's a matter of how big you want it to be. Bigger the pyramid, the bigger the base has to be. Makes sense. So I'm hardly endorse everything that he's doing. But if you're in Veronica's situation, you're not going to be buying, nor should you be buying, any courses. But what you should be doing is taking this gift of these 3 amazing exercises. 1, to figure out where you are, because the first step in changing any problem is all about understanding where you are and acknowledging it. First step of any 12-step program, the first one is acknowledging you have a problem and understanding where the problem is and where you can focus. It's so powerful. So he's got an exercise on that. The second is, remember I talked about rituals being the key to expanding your foundation? He and I have these 5 rituals that we do, and indeed Brendan taught me these years ago now in New York, before we got naked in a spa. But that's a story from another time. There are 5 things that you can do, and some of them, and a spoiler alert, one of them is literally going to bed an hour earlier, 50 minutes earlier. than what you do currently, as a way to get an incredible boost, in terms of giving you the energy, which we know is directly related to willpower, which allows you to then do those 30-minute slices of activity. Do you see how it's all related? That's why I think, think about that pyramid, right? Even if it's a tiny pyramid, even just by going to sleep earlier, right? Something that's 100% in your control, that builds that tiny foundation, which means, you know what? I can now do that first lesson of the challenge. I've got enough energy to do that first lesson of the challenge, and I can do a 30-minute slot. That gives me enough energy to do the 30-minute slot, which is our middle section of the pyramid, organizing how you act, and then to do the tactic, which is that first lesson in the challenge. Do you see how that works? So we're going to give you 5 rituals, right, that you can utilize with this. And by the way, if you're listening to this in the car, on the podcast, this will be in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, these links we'll provide to you will be down below the video. If you're watching this live, bless you, look out for the emails, and we're going to be emailing to everybody anyway, because I think it's that important. So, and then there's a third exercise, which is an example. What I love about it is it's an example of how to build a relationship, whether it be in an audience or a significant other or any of those sorts of things. But it shows you, we're not taught this stuff. We're not taught our operating system. Our operating system, we just get whatever we get with all the baggage and all the stuff that we're taught from school and life experiences and all of those things. That's our foundation. It's just shoveled in there, right? To me, it doesn't make... So you can actually build this foundation. We can build a proper stone foundation, and we do it brick by brick, step by step. There's a way to do that. Just like there are cool tactics that can save you a huge amount of time. Things like Kanban for entrepreneurs, which can absolutely, revolutionize how an entrepreneur works, how you act. We understand those things. All of those things become part of it. So I hope, Veronica, that was useful for you, because I really hope that, that you take it to heart, that get your base right? Figure out where you're going to live. Yes, if that means taking a minimum wage job, then take the damn job. Because guess what? You're not working 24 hours a day, right? Take the job, get a little bit of money, get your living situation stabilized, get help, okay? And from there, little steps, okay? Little steps, and you'll be on your way. All right, we're going to have a little 22-second break, and then we will be back with your questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon Go as well.
Nerf this! Double. I'm on fire! Nerf this! Double. I'm on fire!
All right, welcome back. Let's have a look at a couple of other questions. Then I'm going to talk to you about the marketing lessons of Pokemon Go. So we're going to do that. Okay, so let's get down here. Paul asks, wow, talk about the opposite swing of the spectrum. If you were starting an online business today and had $100,000 cash, not a loan, how would you use it for best ROI? Okay, first of all, I would put the $100,000 away, stick it in an account and earn some interest. Because the worst thing you could do is spend that money. It's hugely ironic, and especially given our previous discussion, it's a bit crazy, really, in the sense that too much money can be as bad as too little money. because you're thinking, you get the wrong sort of thinking. You think you can buy your way into stuff. In the .com days, which I experienced, people were, when they were flush with money, they weren't thinking about how do I serve my market better. They were thinking about, well, how should we decorate our office? What type of chairs should we be in? Can we get some of those new cool standing desks? And the online equivalent of that is going to courses and doing all of that sort of stuff. So to me, the fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals are what you do. I'd start with the challenge, because the first thing you got to do is understand your market properly, right? There are 6 key focus points in creating an online business. First one is understand your market. And you can do that without spending money. Now, you might go to a couple of trade shows in your particular niche that you're interested in, because that's a great way of getting going. But that would be that. Now, having said that, and this may sound horrifically biased, and I'm sure it will sound horrifically biased, but if I had that sort of, well, no, I don't need that sort of money at all, but I would start with a app, like a Magcast or a Scrivcast, as a way of building a list. I think that's the most efficient way of building influence and building my list all in one go. There are other things you could try, things like Instagram, and starting to build your presence, build your influence. But I would do that. Now, ultimately, making some huge assumptions that you do all of that, then ultimately what that money does give you is it gives you leverage. It gives you the ability, once you test in a marketplace. So you don't go, and I've had clients do this, they just dump $10,000 in advertising in a month. They go from zero and they just spend 10 grand. And it's such a waste, because you should be spending small amounts of money. I still, to this day, we could spend thousands of dollars on an advertising test, but we spend $20 to $50 on Facebook, because I want to make sure we've got a positive ROI. And then you crank it up once you understand that that's the case, not before. So that would be, my advice to you, Paul, in that circumstance. Okay, what else have we got here? William says, we sell stuff, boring stuff, safety supplies. One thing we do sell is cut-resistant clothing used at glass plants and on motorcycle riders. It does well on Google, YouTube, but not Amazon, ClickBank. Will this work? I think it's funny you mentioned that. One of my private clients that I worked with a couple of years ago was actually in the safety equipment business, and they had a fabulous business. It was $1 million plus business selling boring safety gear. And it's all about, and again, part of my job in that particular case, and something I would suggest to you, William, is it's all about, building your influence in that particular market, starting to become a go-to place, becoming a market leader in your particular area. So start, publishing content. How can you help? What are the pains, gains, and jobs to be done? Who are your best clients, right? So think about who are your number one clients, and that's what we did with this particular site. We said, okay, and it turned out that there were, in his case, I think it was oil companies and mining companies. And so we said, okay, well, who's your best client? Let's go and target those people. And the fundamentals of what we're teaching here are identical. The media may change. Like, I know one thing that worked extremely well was using, the Australian equivalent of FedEx, so that we figured out who the decision maker, who the purchaser was for the safety equipment, and we literally we actually sent them the Australian equivalent of a FedEx, so that, who doesn't open their own FedEx, right? Everybody opens their own FedEx envelopes or packages. So, there are ways of getting into that. But the fundamentals, pains, gains, and jobs to be done, don't change. Market influence, don't change. The 6 focus points, don't change. And just because you're in a so-called inverted commas boring market, it may feel boring because you've been in it for a long time. But for people who need help, for people who've been thrust into a position where all of a sudden their responsibility is purchasing this safety gear, all of a sudden you become an important part of it. And the one thing I know about the safety gear area is regulations are changing all the time. People need education. My accountant, I know, does a great job of sending out a newsletter every couple of weeks. just on stuff that we should know about. I'm not going to keep up to date with what's going on with everything to do with accounting, snooze fest. That's his job. But I tell you what, it is really interesting to find out some of the, things that are going on and where they can benefit us. And so I'm really thankful for that. And that's a way of touching base, keeping in touch with the client and doing things like that. So that would be my suggestion to you, William, that even though it's inverted commas, not sexy, it's a wonderful way of approaching things. Jorge says here, hi, I'm from Cabo San Lucas. I bet you I totally butchered that pronunciation in my Australian accent. And he's starting the challenge. I don't have any questions, but thanks for the opportunity. Awesome. I love the fact that people sort of get there. Now, G asks, Ed, what do we do when the 30-minute timer goes off? The business Kanban is great. Now, I've already spotted an issue, but we'll read the question. But it seems I also need one for my hobbies. Gardening has things to be done. One for my household chores, one for volunteer I will do for other people, and one for work I do for my clients. When the Kanban business timer goes off, should we do something from one of our other Kanban lists, or should we relax for a few minutes and start another 30-minute block on the business Kanban? I am not a routine person at all. Hey, I'm with you. So right now I'm all over the place, just randomly doing things from all of my lists. Okay, whoa there. Okay, Kanban, and particularly Kanban for entrepreneurs, is you have one Kanban board, and all of the things, like if you were to look at my options part, which is that, I can never do this, which is my wide part of the board. It's the first part of the board for those of you listening. I've got things from my personal life, hobbies, potential trips I want to plan, all sort of potential product ideas. Everything goes in there, because your life is not, it's a fallacy that you can split up all these different things, and each of them has an impact. And when I'm trying to diagnose and work with a private client, it's often stuff that is completely outside of the business that is impacting on the time that they can spend building the business. So the whole point of a Kanban board is to integrate all of those things, multiple lists. And boy, I tell you what, maybe you can handle it. There's about 10% of people who are entrepreneurs can handle multiple lists, let alone one list. So you have to have the one board and have all of those things. So that's the first thing I would absolutely mention on that. One board only for that, particularly when it's you that's monitoring it. Because like I said, I know for a fact, 65% give or take of you completely suck when it comes to any sort of to-do list. And by the way, I can say that because I am in this category. I suck. We can't do that. That's why we need a visual board that's sticking in front of our face so we can see that. So the way that you do that is that when you're moving tickets into the ready column, to the middle, you've got to look at your gardening. You've got to look at your health. You've got to look at your charity work. You've got to look at all of those things and say, okay, what's important this week? And you've got to limit those to 6 things. Okay, you pick the 6 tickets that are the most important. Then you actually chunk those tickets down to make sure that there are things, what can I actually achieve this week? What makes sense? So that's how, so I make sure everything is integrated, because if you don't, you're fooling yourself, right? Work-life balance, it's just life, right? There's just this pool of time as life. Yes, Joe and Jane Smith, right, who are not listening to this, watching this, they can completely separate work and life. They work their 9 to 5 or whatever it is. They can switch off, right? They're there at work, then they switch off for the rest of the time. That's not what entrepreneurs are. That's not what we do. It's just not the case. But you don't want to leave things behind. And it's important. If something's important to you, well, it's got to be reflected on the board. And you can't have multiple lists. It's just insane, right? Because you aren't able to visualize that, because part of this is when I look at the end of the week, and I haven't actually reset my board for Monday yet. I had a good week though. I will look at all those things in the done column, and I'll look at them and say, well, I'll think about, okay, well, how did I do something with relation to my health? What about family? What about business? What about the things that we're focusing on there? I take all of those things into account. Okay, so that's very important when you're looking at that. Now, the next question you said is 30 minutes. Okay, what do I do? Well, here's what I do. What I do is I set my timer for 5 minutes. I pick up my phone, and I personally do a round of Clash Royale. That's what I do. But I set a timer and I give myself a 5 minute break. I'll get up and I might have a wander, stretch my legs, and have a drink of water. But I do it to a timer, and then I go to my next 25-minute session. That's what I do. Okay, and sometimes when I'm doing a particularly focused, it's pretty rare actually these days. Usually I do 25 minutes and 5 minutes break. Okay, which is, you've probably heard of Pomodoro technique. Look, you can call it 1,000 different things. But the point is the whole reason to chunk it in, and this is all backed by brain science, is that you want to do that, that chunk. Some people do it with 50 minutes and then have a 5-10 minute break at the end of a 50-minute period. Whatever it is, but it's important to do that. But it's also important to set the timer on your break as well, because otherwise you'll be ending up playing Clash Royale for 2 hours, right? Not good, right? So we don't want to do that, but you do want to reward yourself with a break. And here's the reason, right? The psychology behind it is you can do anything for 25 minutes. You can put yourself through, anything, right? As long as you know it's to the clock. And so when the timer goes off, if you have that little reward, that little dopamine reward, some time, whatever is your cool thing, it might be stretching, you might be yoga poses, I don't know, whatever it is, Pokemon Go, we're coming to that in a sec. All of those things are potentially, opportunities, right? They're opportunities. And that's what's so cool. And so, but whatever is your reward thing, whatever tickles your reward fantasy, that's what you should do. Maybe you read for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, okay? It's totally up to you, but it should be reward-based, okay? And that is key. Now, we've talked about Pokemon Go a little bit here, and I just want to talk to you guys about it. And you might be going, "What the hell are you talking about?" On late last week, in what was a pretty dreadful week for world news, Pokemon Go was released, and it's what they call an augmented reality game. In other words, you have to get off your butt, get out in the street with your smartphone, and you go catch Pokemon. And for those of you who are, I actually missed the Pokemon. I was a bit old for Pokemon, but for a lot of people, Pokemon is a huge deal. Okay. Even if you're not interested in games, you need to stick with me for a minute, because I want to what I'm trying to teach you here is how to identify when there's something big going on and how to capitalize on it. Okay? So my spidey sense went off immediately because I know how cool augmented reality is. And I know that what it's been missing is it needs a brand, right? It needs something that's big. And Pokemon definitely fits that. Even though you may not have heard of it, trust me, for people in that age group, everybody's obsessed with it. So that was interesting, and I thought, oh, that's cool, and I downloaded the app, and I thought that was fun, and sent it off, and always interesting, I sent it off to Hannah and said, hey, Hannah, have you checked this out? Any of your friends doing it? And that was the first thing. All of a sudden, a bunch of Hannah's friends were doing it, all their brothers and so on were doing it. And then I started noticing on Twitter, people of my age were making Pokemon jokes and so on. So I said, hang on, this is getting really interesting. And then on Friday night, we were out. And we were just driving home, and I thought, oh, this is funny. Let's put on Pokemon Go. And all of a sudden, there are literally dozens and dozens of people out in, there's not many people that, go out and wandering the streets near where I live as a general rule. It's not that highly trafficked. But there's dozens of people. And in the city, hundreds of people. There are photos in Melbourne of literally hundreds of people because there are these spots that you can go to, Pokestops, where you can get Pokeballs. I know, work with me here. But it's this huge thing. And what was really exciting about this, a couple of things that were exciting. One, it's actually a great game for kids because it actually gets them off their ass and they have to walk. To hatch eggs you have to actually walk for kilometers, or miles, depending on where you are, right? So you actually have to walk. It's actually a way of tricking your children into exercise. It's amazing, right? It's fascinating. And people of all ages, and you're reading about all of these fantastic stories, and all of a sudden the memes start, and this is going to be a big deal. And I guarantee you, now I mentioned this, you're going to see this everywhere. All of a sudden the mainstream media has gotten hold of this. It is just going to explode. You're going to see a lot about it. So for me, as with my marketer, there's a few things that I'm looking at. For a start, if one of you aren't creating a Madcast on Pokemon Go, you're insane, right? That's just a Monty, because if all of a sudden, if there's hundreds of thousands of people doing this thing, and it's actually millions, get this, it looks as though Pokemon Go, this just came across my feed this morning, on Android is more popular than Twitter. More active users than Twitter, right? And even if this was a fad, okay, Ed, this is the latest Cabbage Patch Dolls, right? This is a fad. Okay, let's say it's even a fad. Even if it's a fad and it drops down to a normal, there's going to be a bunch of people that are still going to be there. And so that's a community. It's a potential new community that did not exist. Well, the Pokemon community actually has existed, and card trading and computer games and all those sorts of things have happened. Nintendo have got an absolute certified hit on their hand, because remember I said these Pokestops? Well, there's two reasons they're going to make money here. Reason one, are people like me are going to notice that some punk has taken over my local Poke Gym. This is where you battle your Pokemon that you collect against other people's Pokemons that they collect. I know, bear with me. But there are these gyms, right? And that's where, you literally, if you go out there, particularly, on the weekend, if you see these Poke Gyms, you'll see it because you'll see dozens of people all on their phones around this spot, or battling. Right? It's phenomenal. I can't tell you how surprising it is to this. However, here's the thing. If you don't have time to go out and do that, then you can buy your way into success. So that's very clever for Nintendo, right? You can buy a whole bunch of these Pokemon Poke coins, which then you can buy Poke stuff to get better. You can do that. But there is another huge angle here. Because if I was a business, if I was a coffee shop, I would pay to have a Pokestop or a Poke Gym on my premises. Right? Particularly if I was targeting that particular demographic, I would absolutely pay for that, right? Because people are going to buy coffee, they're going to hang around, and there's a thing called lures which you can attach to these things. And somebody did the math on Reddit, and that's another interesting point. Somebody did the math on Reddit, and a business could spend $7 a day to keep a lure there, which means more Pokemon are there, which means more Pokemon players will come there. And they'll hang around and they'll buy stuff, right? They'll buy food and drink and all that sort of stuff. If I had a food cart, a cappuccino cart, I'd sit there and do that. So this is the levels of layers of money. And, it's incredible that there's nothing. It's digital goods. So that is amazing. Nintendo are going to make mark my words, Nintendo are going to make way more from this than anything that they've ever done. And that means that there's an entire community. And when there's an entire community created, mark my words, somebody listening to this will go, you know what, Ed, you're right, and they'll understand this, they'll start a Madcast on this, and it'll be incredibly successful. It'll just happen. Guaranteed. Now, something else that's very important with this, I mentioned Reddit. You talk about ways to understand how things are hot. Reddit, Reddit, is a big part of that. And that is a really important one for the bleeding edge. The super switched on people for any particular market will be on Reddit. That's a subject for another time, I think. But I think we'll do we should do an entire show, or at least a segment on Reddit, because it's an incredible market research thing. So it's great. So that is it's just a fascinating thing, and it's going to be big. And there is a bunch of info marketers that are going to make a lot of money out of Pokemon Go, because they're going to start a Madcast, Scriptcast, they're going to collect emails, they're going to build funnels, they're going to serve the community, they're going to figure out pains, gains, jobs to be done, and they're going to do well. And this was a market that, as of this time last week, did not exist. Brand new. So it just goes to show, right? These things are happening all the time. Okay, so with that, we've got one final question here, and then we'll call it a day. And they've actually given me their Colby number, which is fantastic, 5474. Ed, can you speak about branding? I'd rather not use my personal name as brand. I want and cherish my privacy, but I'm concerned that a logo and a created brand name is not effective to bond with your tribe. Please advise. Great question. And it doesn't mean anything, right? You can absolutely set up something. But here's the thing you've got to keep in mind. Okay, if you look at the way ideas are spread, they're spread through social media, and that social media, as a general rule, is attached to a person as opposed to a business. It's just the way it is. Okay, so if that's the case, then you need to consider looking at a way of how do you work with social media. Okay, do you hire a social media person to do all your social media? But you can absolutely do it. Look at Founder Magazine, right? Okay, Nathan Chan, we know Nathan because we know of Nathan, but I bet you most of the people who are Founder Magazine subscribers, they'll know of Nathan, but if Nathan wasn't there, Nathan could easily drop somebody else in. But you have to build that brand, right? And you have to build up that identity. But to me, here's the deal, right? Brand is what you do. Okay, and how you serve your market. Your brand is built on figuring out what your market's pains, gains, and jobs to be done are, and then serving that market by providing pain relievers, gain creators, and showing them how-tos and how to get where they need to go with jobs to be done. That is your brand building exercise. So how you do that, I don't care. Because whether you do that as an individual or as a business, same things apply. There are positives and negatives to both. Some things are naturally easier as a individual working in forums, for example. Whereas, a Facebook page and a brand is fine, right? A YouTube channel based on a brand is fine, right? So all of those things, it's neither here nor there. It's nothing. It's honestly not something you construct. You build your business how you want it built, right? And if that means that you do not want to be front and center, then build it that way. Some things will be a little trickier. You'll have to pay a little bit of money here and there, but hey, that's what you do, right? That's where you build your brand. So some people use pseudonyms, for example, as another way of going about it. That is completely legit too. Rock musicians and actors and so on have been using pseudonyms forever. So it's nothing shady about it. They just, want some privacy. If you book a hotel room as Sting, that's not going to go well for you, right? So, it's totally up to you. So just understand that there are gives, there's swings and roundabouts. But ultimately, at the end of the day, don't worry about your brand. Worry about how you're serving your market. And then serve your market in a way that's comfortable and sustainable for you. And if you're serving your market well, your brand will automatically build by itself. All right, with that big show today, thank you very much for being part of it. I'll just point out again, if you are starting out, if you're one of those people like we discussed with Veronica at the start of the show, the challenge is the best free way to go. You can get there at challenge.co. That is, there for you. Also, at any time, if you want to ask a question, the questions are always open. So if you want to ask a question, you can go to live.eddale.co at any time at all. It's there for you, and I'll be there to answer your questions. Hope you guys have a great week, and I hope you found it all useful. And yes, next week we'll be back. So we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel. Enjoy yourself, and I will figure out how to turn this off. So ciao for now. See you all. Speak soon.